The year's 2018. A Canadian indie developer named Adam Robinson Yu is hard at work on an RPG game heavily inspired by the classic Paper Mario titles. After working on his spiritual successor for around a year, the sheer scale of this project was starting to take a toll on him, and realizing the end was nowhere in sight, Adam started to become burnt out. Luckily, it was around this time that he was invited by his friends to go on a road trip to a variety of national parks across Canada and the US. Adam had an interest for nature. The peace of being outdoors and the fulfillment of trekking up a steep mountain were feelings he held close. And it was during this trip Adam began imagining how he could take the experience of hiking and translate it into a game. In the beginning, he imagined a simulation game where you'd manage your own national park, creating your own paths, adding markers, and managing wildlife. And although that game never came to be, the idea for a hiking game remained. Later that year, Adam attended an event called Stugan, a 2-month game dev accelerator where creators from all over the world came together to develop games in a cabin in the woods. It was there Adam pitched a game called The Secret of Dankest Mountains, where the main character's goal is to ascend towards the top of a mountain with a limited amount of stamina. And if you made it to the peak, you'd find a little hang glider to soar your way back down. It was made during a game jam in the span of just 8 hours, but it piqued Adam's curiosity towards creating a game where navigation and exploration would play an integral role. So back home with his new concept in mind, starting December of 2018, development for a short hike began. Inspired by his previous projects and his love for nature, he was able to release the game on PC as part of Humble Monthly in just the span of 5 months, before releasing on Steam just 4 months later with additional content. A short hike feels like a breath of fresh air from standard game design tropes players are used to seeing, taking elements such as the open-ended exploration of Breath of the Wild, or the outdoor activities and charming talking characters of Animal Crossing, and mashes them to create a game style that feels unique. You play as a bird named Claire, starting on the shore of Hawk Peak Provincial Park, with your only real objective being to climb to the top of Hawk Peak in order to receive some mysterious call. But this is no walk in the park. When you start, all you have is one jump, and a glide to carry you across short distances. Your current moveset is not going to take you far up the mountain, but that is where golden feathers come in. These shiny collectibles give Claire just a little more stamina to advance farther up the mountain, and these can be used in 2 different ways, either to give yourself an extra flap after your jump, or to increase the amount of time you can climb. But the cool part about this is that the effect of the feathers stack, meaning the more you have, the farther you're able to fly and climb. Essentially, this means golden feathers are the only way you can make progress. Some of them you can straight up purchase from other animals, but most of them are going to be found through thorough exploration of the island. But by scattering feathers throughout every nook and cranny, you're encouraged to explore the entirety of Hawk Peak. And because of this, you never feel like the game is pressuring you to advance to the next area as quickly as possible. A short hike wants the player to take their time familiarizing themselves with the mountain. In fact, there's no menu that tracks your quests, and there's not even a map, but I believe a short hike can successfully get away with providing you this information. For example, in Breath of the Wild, you don't have a map of the surrounding region until you've climbed to the top of one of the towers and retrieved the map data onto your Sheikah slate. So you're encouraged to gain a rough understanding of the area through exploration before receiving clearer information that tells you where you are. Now, obviously Breath of the Wild has a massive world, so having the system makes sense. If you remove this game's map, I'd say good luck finding all of the shrines. Now let's look back at Hawk Peak. It's literally just one big mountain with a couple of islands surrounding it. It's just the right size for the player to generate a mental map of the area. You're reading signs and remembering distinctive landmarks instead of staring at objective markers or a mini-map. It almost feels like a short hike. And by the way, going off the beaten path is worth it because every area of this island is filled with new locations, secrets, and activities to find. You can find fishing holes, participate in races, or even play the world-famous beach stickball.
Nice battle!
It's so easy to find yourself uncovering every inch of the island that you'll want to find everything this game has to offer. And as you explore, you'll come across tons of animals to talk with. The way Claire and the other animals talk really nails the peaceful, laid-back tone of the game. Conversations feel so casual and authentic. Everyone speaks to each other in such quick back and forth bursts that almost resemble text messaging. Usually this kind of writing is used when the character is literally using their phone. But watching these animals talk to one another in such an unfiltered way actually makes the interactions feel more realistic. You could encounter an artist who's struggling with the anxiety and doubt that her art will never be good enough, or a hiker who's extremely committed to the craft of climbing. There's so many good interactions that I'd recommend talking to everyone you come across. They always have some funny or relatable dialogue that'll stick with you. Immediately, the one aspect that pops out when you play a short hike is this game's art style. The 3D environment combined with the pixelated look inspired by retro 2D games creates this unique aesthetic. It heavily resembles that fuzzy pixelated look DS games had because of its low resolution screen. Some people may feel thrown off by this style, which is why the intensity of the pixelation can be adjusted in the game's settings, but personally I think this filter makes the game stand apart. If you turn off the filter, you'll notice textures and assets were designed with less detail in mind. So turning on the pixels actually makes the world look like it fits within the art style, if that makes sense. And Hawk Peak is also just full with small details. Trees and bushes sway along with the wind, clouds and snowfall alter your visibility at higher elevations, and the higher you climb, the more the ground below you appears distant and hazy, shrouded in a warm orange-like hue. Overall, the visuals here strike a good balance between simplicity and style, and it's unlike anything I've seen before. Accompanying the game's visuals is the excellent soundtrack composed by Mark Sparling. Filled with tracks inspired from Animal Crossing, Breath of the Wild, and Studio Ghibli, Sparling managed to craft a soundtrack that changes dynamically based on the player's location. This is known as an adaptive soundtrack. On Hawk Peak, there's 4 main songs that play in different areas of the mountain, and within these large chunks there's smaller subsections where different elements of the track will play. Like the song's main melody will play when you're on the beach, or maybe a more subtle version will play near the visitor center. It's a clever way to combine music with game design to immerse and familiarize the player with the world, and it's used in more games than you probably realize. But this soundtrack really hits all the right beats when it comes to relaxation and adventure. It's not often I'll play a new game where I find myself completely losing track of time. A Short Hike's open-ended game design, down-to-earth dialogue, retro-inspired visuals, and adaptive soundtrack craft a short but sweet experience. You can really feel the passion put into this game, with every aspect being polished upon from Adam's years of experience in previous projects. A Short Hike succeeds at providing that feeling of being immersed in nature, creating an atmosphere that just lets you take a deep breath and escape from the stress of life. Hey, wow, you made it to the end of my video, look at you go. Hey, let me know what you think of this format. I'm trying to do somewhere between a blend of a video game review while also uncovering the process with how the game was made. So let me know if you kind of like this more in-depth style. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, freaking go on my Patreon, Dollar Shave Club, Audible, NordVPN, you know the drill. Give me money.